What is it? Is it like the excitement of like, oh my God, we shouldn't be doing this, but yes, come here, you think about it. Or is it just like a raw attraction and I love you so much, so come here, I don't know what it is.
Goodbye.
But when will I see you again?
Oh, never, never.
Never?
Well, maybe someday.
When? Tomorrow?
Oh, no.
These two had absolutely nothing in common except for their last name, and no, they were not married nor were they related. Vicky White was the law, a decorated corrections officer with more than a decade on the job. She was only one step away from becoming the director of the facility when she went on and did arguably the dumbest thing ever. And with this guy, this is Casey White. Like I said, polar opposite of Vicky. He is a career criminal with a rap sheet longer than my arm. Petty theft, assault, home invasion, you name it, he's probably done it. He was sitting at the same jail where Vicky worked, waiting for his murder trial when she just looked at him and she said, oh my God, big boy, that's him. That's the one. When SZA made that song about big boys, she was talking about Casey White. And just like that, baby, Sun City, she was gone. She was in love. Okay? Vicky broke him out of jail and together they went on the run. Today we break down how it happened, the planning, the escape, and the fallout that shocked everyone. If that tickles your fancy, if that sounds like something that you'll be interested in hearing, then please keep on watching. All right. Hello everyone, how's everyone doing? I hope that everyone is doing well. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Skea. Welcome. So in case you are new, I tell you a true crime story while I apply my makeup, and I can only hope that you stick around for this one. But if you are not new, welcome back. And you will also know that I have to do my brows first and then we can get started. Okay. So again, I'm using this palette today. I used it in the previous video, so make sure to give it a watch if you're interested. And this is from Beauty Bay. Is it? Yes. Let's create some magic, shall we? So today's case is taking us to the US in Alabama. And I believe this is our first American case. And I know what they say about polar opposites attracting, but not like this. Okay, this is not the polar we are talking about. There is no reason why a criminal and a law enforcement officer should get involved with each other. Okay, so I'm just going to paint you a picture here so that you really understand just how different these people are. Let's start with Casey White. So not much is really known about Casey White other than his criminal career spanning over 10 years. He was raised in Leicester, Alabama, and he played football in high school. That's really much about like his early childhood. And this is due to his, his tall height. He was said to be polite, but sometimes he just had a few loose screws. His mother really said that he was just a good boy. But then again, don't all parents think that though? Things changed for Casey when he was about 18 years old. He got involved with the wrong crowd and he started to use drugs, heavy drugs. And it was also around this time that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. With the drugs, it's not really helping his situation. And when he was unmedicated, he was just a complete menace, doing the absolute most, disrupting peace. Case in point, in 2006, he was arrested over a domestic violence incident involving his own mother. The very same mother that said that he is just a wee little boy, he is a sweet boy, right? And 4 years later, in 2010, he beat up his own brother in the face with an axe hammer. I don't know what they were fighting about or what led to this altercation, but clearly Casey felt so strongly about it to his own brother in the freaking face. With an axe hammer too? He was formally charged with assault in February of 2012 and sentenced to 6 years, but he was released early in 2015. So he was only locked up for 3 years, which is a terrible mistake if you've seen the last video, because clearly he didn't learn anything from being locked up. You would actually think that he wanted to be put back in, because what then he went on to do is just someone making sure that he gets as many charges as possible. Shortly after his release, he embarked on a crime spree that will ultimately lead to his arrest and right into the loving arms of Vicky White. Okay, again, they are not related people, just in case you missed it the first time that I said it. Alright, so December 1st, 2015, Casey White showed up at his ex-girlfriend's house. The reason? He couldn't stand that she had moved on. So out of pure jealousy, he barged into her house with 2 handguns in the middle of the night, and he just started shooting at everything. In the house there was the ex-girlfriend, her 2 children, and her 2 housemates. So he's just shooting at everything on sight. Luckily, her 2 kids were in the basement, so they were safe from all of the gunshots. Her 2 roommates jumped out of the bathroom window to escape while she ran to a neighbor's house. Casey chased her down the street, firing at her. The only saving grace here is he is a terrible shot, so he missed. But as he was fleeing, he shot her dog. This is happening all at once, like, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Casey then ran to another neighbor, right? Pointed a gun to his face and stole his car, which was a Ford Edge. He used this car to cross into Tennessee. So from Alabama to Tennessee, he's crossing state lines because these are different states. In a stolen vehicle. So this makes it a federal crime. So when he got to Tennessee, he decides that, okay, he needs another getaway car. So what does Mr. Big Brains here do? He tried to hijack an 18-wheeler. Have you seen an 18-wheeler? It's big, it's massive. Do you remember 18 Wheels of Justice? Yeah, that big as truck. So when the driver saw him approaching, he then locked himself inside the sleeper section of the truck, and that plan flopped. He couldn't get in. Next, he tried to hijack a woman, but she locked her doors and she sped off. Just as she was getting away, Casey then shot at her car, hitting her in the shoulder. Thankfully, she would also survive this. So after yet another failed attempt, Casey then got back into the Ford Edge and drove towards a gas station, which is a petrol station, it's a gas station in America. He then spotted a man filling up his Lincoln, and he stole the Lincoln instead at gunpoint. He then gets into the Lincoln, floors it towards Alabama, driving at 100 miles per hour. Honestly, at this point, I don't know what he's thinking. From Tennessee to Alabama, from Alabama to Tennessee, like, what's happening? A patrol officer though saw him speeding and he was quickly onto him. The chase ensued for almost an hour, and it ended in Athens, Alabama around 1 a.m. when Casey wrecked the car. So at this point, there were a lot of officers on him, and at the site, they tried to approach the car. But Casey held the 2 handguns to his head, demanding to speak to the sheriff. After some tense back and forth, the sheriff would arrive and Casey would be saying, "Go, my mama, tell all of her," and stuff like that. So the sheriff is like, "Okay, I know, Casey, we've come a long way." So he's just all bluff. So he tells him, "Put the damn gun down, Casey." And he does. And that's literally all it took for them to haul his ass to jail. But before they did, he did demand that he wants a Sundrop, which is like this fizzy drink that is quite popular in North Alabama.
Put the gun down. The sheriff will be here in a minute, okay? You want a dip? You want a dip? I got a dip. You just want a cigarette? You want a sun drop? The sheriff will be here in just a minute.
Sheriff, be here just a second, man, okay?
Hey, look, don't, why? Why, Casey? The sheriff's coming. The sheriff's coming, Casey.
So if you are watching this video and you're in North Alabama, what is so special about Sundrop? Because that is literally all it took for them to haul his ass to prison, or jail rather. So he was held at Limestone County Jail facing 15 charges, and I mean 15. We are talking 1st-degree attempted murder, 6 counts of kidnapping, 1st-degree robbery, 1st-degree theft, 3rd-degree burglary, cruelty to animals, breaking and entering a vehicle, attempting to elude, and 2 counts of 1st-degree burglary. These are the charges only in Alabama. In Tennessee, they had their own whole list waiting for him, including attempted murder, 2 counts of carjacking, and theft of $10,000. So on March 8th, 2016, around 3 months later, he was finally indicted, which is just a fancy way of saying, sir, there's your official charges. Enjoy jail while you wait for trial. So fast forward 3 years later, February 4th, 2019, Casey finally went to trial, and out of the 15 charges, he was convicted on 7 and sentenced to 75 years in prison. All of that ruckus he did in less than 24 hours to spend the rest of his life in prison, because 75 years is a life sentence, honey. Like, it's really not adding up. Why would you do this? So he was moved from Limestone County Jail to William E. Donaldson Correctional Facility in Bessemer, Alabama. And of course, he tried to appeal the verdict, but the judge said, sit down. Okay, just appealing in jail for the sake of appealing, sit down. But a year into his sentence in June of 2020, Casey suddenly confessed to a murder that had been initially ruled out as a suicide. The only reason that they kind of took him serious was he gave details only a killer would know. So he was transferred to the Lauderdale County Detention Centre, like the Lauderdale County Jail, to await for the trial. Funny thing is, Casey had already been questioned about this same murder back in 2015 when it happened, the same year that he did that whole ruckus thing, right? They didn't find anything back then, so the case just went cold. 5 years later, out of nowhere, he writes a letter to the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office confessing to killing Connie Ridgway. Who is Connie? Connie was 56 years old. She was a mother of 2 grown sons and the kind of neighbor that everyone just loved, you know. She was always helping people out, especially the elderly in, you know, her apartment building, because that's where she lived. So on October 23rd, 2015, a neighbor got worried after not seeing Connie after a while. So they went to check on her and they found that the door to her apartment was open. So they went into the apartment and they found Connie on the floor covered in blood. She had been stabbed to death. The case went cold until Casey decided to, quote unquote, clear his conscience. So for the people who knew Casey, this just didn't make sense, because why confess now? Well, it turns out that prison life wasn't, you know, exactly kind to Casey. He had been shanked a couple of times in prison and he wanted to be out of there immediately. He had already asked to be transferred to a county jail before, but they said no. So when this sudden confession comes out of a murder that already happened years ago, everyone wondered if this was true, if this is something that actually happened, or was this just a clever way to get moved out of the prison. Either way, on August 3rd, 2020, he got exactly what he wanted: a transfer to the Lauderdale County Detention Facility for interrogation. And that is where Casey White would meet Vicky White for the very first time. I know I've been saying Vicky White, Vicky White, Vicky White. So let's get into her so that you can see the stark difference between these two. So who is Vicky White? Not much is really known about her other than that she was born on August 19, 1965 in Alabama, where she also went on to spend the rest of her life. She was, you know, quite close with her parents, and I believe she was an only child, because I didn't see like any other mentions of like siblings or anything like that. She was said to have been a good girl, you know, all of her life. She was quite reserved and she didn't really talk much. She went on to marry her high school sweetheart, his name is Thomas White, in 2002 when she was about 37 years old. But she did file for a divorce in 2006, I believe, yes, because of her husband's alcohol and drug addiction. By all accounts, it was just like an amicable divorce, and I imagine not having children lessened the burden that always comes with custody issues. She would also later admit that she should have walked away, but she's always been taught that marriage is for life, you stick it out. And even when it's not working, you just have to make it work. But she's like, okay, nah, this I can't do. So she ended up divorcing him. But they will remain close friends with her ex-husband until he passed away in 2020, I believe, from Parkinson's disease. And she was also quite close with her former mother-in-law. It was also around the time of her divorce in 2006 when she got a job at the Lauderdale Corrections Facility as a corrections officer. She was said to be like a stellar employee, and she really worked really hard. I'm talking pulling long hours, 60 hours a week, and she never complained. She slowly worked her way up in the jail until she became the assistant director. So between 2015 and 2022, she was awarded Employee of the Year about 5 different times. And her co-workers will tell you like it was actually really well deserved because she did put in the time. She did put in the work. She was the person that you go to if you needed anything to get done. She was reliable, she was trustworthy, and she took her job very seriously. Her private life though was exactly that, private. Her co-workers didn't know what she had going on other than just like the super generic stuff. Like if you were to ask me, that's exactly how it should be. But still, with that being said, Vicky would later get into a new relationship much later after their divorce with a man called Brian Keith Garner, and they even got engaged. But he was involved in a car wreck accident and he passed on. She did not take this well at all, as you would imagine a grieving wife to be, right? And people deal with grief in different ways. She chose to go back to work soon after the funeral to keep her mind occupied with other things other than her loss. Her colleagues saw the change at this time. They noticed that she was a lot more reserved. Her walls were all the way up. And she also did admit to like a few close colleagues that she was very lonely after the passing of her fiance. And she only had a dog to keep her company at home. And she also did admit that she drank quite a bit by herself, which would explain her wanting to work as much, I guess, because if you're going to go home to an empty house, there's no one to talk to, so you'd rather just keep yourself busy with work. So I can see why she did that. So at work, she handled most of the admin stuff in the jail, and one of her key roles was the transportation of prisoners to court, handling transfers, and like the whole 9 yards. And by protocol, there has to be another officer there to do like all of that. So this is important, like lock it in your little brain somewhere because you're gonna revisit this a little bit later. So we have established that Vicky is like remarkably good at her job, right? She's like phenomenal until a man enters the chat. It has to be a man, like every time it's always a man. Like this is why it's very important to decenter men. Men cannot be the be all and end all of a woman's life. They did so much more because men just have to do something. They just have to do something because in 2020, 6'9", tatted, blue-eyed, I think it's blue-eyed, yeah, Vicky White stabbed his big feet in the Lauderdale Corrections Facility, and things will never be the same again. It just goes tits up. Let me tell you how this whole thing started, right? You'll not believe it. Let me tell you though. So Casey is said to be a romancer. He's not shy with the ladies, and he carried that same attitude in jail. And he would often tell female guards like, oh my God, you know, it has been a while since I held a woman. Can you please like give me a hug? And of course, the female officers will tell him like no, straight up tell him no. But just because someone tells you no, doesn't mean like you have to give up. You just throw mud to the wall and you see what sticks. And in this case, something did stick. So it is said that one day Vicky was making her rounds in the jail. She was walking down the hall and Casey was looking at her like through the window in his cell. And he told her that she has a nice butt. And that's what did it. Like, who knew? You just have to tell a girl that she has a nice butt and you have won her heart. And she looks at him and she's like, oh my God, He is a big boy. He is younger, absolutely. Because Vicky at this time, she was well into her 50s and Casey was 38. So there is a significant age gap between them. And a younger man thinking she's hot. Oh, baby, Sun City. She fell in love. It's giving it's quite alright. But then also there's not like there's a lot of options in jail, is it? And I'm not like trying to rain on a parade or anything. It's just like, is there? But yeah, in short, that's just how the whole thing began. Casey would write her love letters, like, old school way. He would write her love letters. He would send her some money. But at first, was a little bit discreet about it. He would buy like a card at the commissary and say that he was writing a letter to his mother. But he would ask his inmates to help him out with the spelling of like gorgeous. So the inmates are like, who tells their mother that they're gorgeous? So that's when they suspected that, oh, okay, Casey has a girl or whatever. But at this time, they didn't know who this girl was. So this relationship just became stronger by the day because they did see each other literally every day. And it was great, I guess. His cellmates will say they started suspecting that they might be a little bit of something because they noticed that Casey got favors like extra yard time or like an extra piece of chicken in the kitchen. And they also didn't say anything because, for one, if they did say something, who are they going to say it to? It's the boss who's doing all of this. Like, who are they supposed to tell? And two, being incarcerated is hard as is. So a little bit of sun on yard time to keep quiet, no bueno. I'm silent as a mouse. Okay, you do what you must. So this was like the whole rationale at the time. And they did get some yard, just the part. And they did get extra yard time, all right, because these two were doing it. They were doing it in jail, like on her shift. And I'm like, Vicky! First of all, officers will tell you like it stinks in the jail because they don't wash up. Men don't wash up, stink butts and everything. They also don't wash the blankets. But Vicky was right in them sheets, regular like clockwork. And I'm just like, what is it? Is it like the excitement of like, oh my God, we shouldn't be doing this, but yes, come here, you think about it. Or is it just like a raw attraction and I love you so much, so come here, I don't know what it is, but she was doing it. So, oh my gosh. Like, I'm trying not to judge, but I'm like, damn, girl. In jail? Honey, no. So even when she was on her day off, she still wanted to talk to, her man. So she got a new phone. This phone was only used to contact Casey. No one else had her number. It was just like her little love phone, So when she gets home, she will call him, oh, babe, I'm home, whatever. The thing with calls to correction facilities is they are recorded. And as a corrections officer, she knew this. But these phone calls, honey, like thanks to Netflix, we got to hear some of these recordings, but I can't play them for you here because the last time that I did, I got a copyright strike. So I was just tell you like how they would go, but it was pretty much just like them professing their love for each other and like longing to hold each other, and like it will then escalate into, oh, I miss you, I'm gonna touch you, blah blah blah, and then they're like huffing and puffing on the phone. I don't know why I'm so giddy. Like, it's not funny. You're a grown woman. It's not funny. But I'll give you an example of like how one of these calls would play out. So one night, Vicky had been like out to get some groceries or whatnot. And this was also her day off. So she hadn't seen her man. She hadn't seen Casey the whole day. So when she came back home, she called Casey and they talked about their day and things like that. And Casey asked her like what she was doing and what she had on. And she tells him that she's wearing shorts because she was not going anyway. And then he tells her like, showing them little legs. He says, and then he says, showing them little legs off, huh? And then she goes, well, to the dog, I guess. And then he says, I wish I was the dog. And she's like, oh my God, stop. Before you know it, that's like foreplay. And I know also like this is like such a serious case, but I found like that whole little interaction a little fun. I know I'm such a child, sue me. And the thing is, Vicky's boss had to listen to hundreds of variations of these calls. And I was like, it's just too private and intimate, you know? We also got to learn a little bit more about this relationship through Casey's mother. She said that she only got aware that Casey was in a relationship in February of 2022, but only to an extent. She said that her son told her about this pen pal, right? But he kept the identity of the pen pal private. So she didn't know exactly who it was that he was talking about, who he was talking to, but she says that Casey grew up to love this woman. And apparently he would often refer to her as his baby or his wife. She says that it seemed a little bit strange, this whole wife thing, but she didn't want to discourage him because he seemed to be happy. And if calling this woman his wife made him happy, then who is she to try to discourage him? But what's crazy is that at some point, Casey also told his mother that this woman is going to come and visit her and the kids. Families are getting involved here, okay? So Vicky, she does exactly that. She went over and paid them a visit. Casey's mother didn't know at this point that Vicky worked at the jail her son was held in. She said that Vicky was nice. And soon after that visit, Vicky started sending them Christmas cards and birthday cards for the kids, which I guess is not strange. I don't know. And then Casey told his mother that Vicky was going to try to get him out of jail. He assured her that everything was going to be done legally and that she was going to help him get, better lawyers. And he said that afterwards, the two of them will get to be together. His mother was skeptical, of course. She was like, honey, as is, you've got 75 years, okay? You are literally going to die in jail. And you've also confessed to a murder. I don't know how this is going to work. But she did say that she was happy for her son and she wanted what was best for him, and she didn't try to hinder the happiness that she saw in him around that time. And I'm like, maybe that's where the problem is. Maybe she should have said something. Somebody. Because what happens next, it could have been prevented. I really think that it could have been prevented. So Casey's trial date was fast approaching. It was initially supposed to be in April of 2022, but it was moved to June 13th, 2022. But what no one knew is that there was a plan in place to make sure that Casey doesn't even go to trial. Again, is it my channel if I don't forget to press record? Because for the previous 3 to 4 months, Vicky White, assistant director of the Lauderdale County Detention Centre, told her co-workers that she was planning her retirement. She told them that she had already filed for the paperwork and she was set to retire on April 29, 2022. Keep this date in mind, okay? Very important date. Like, it was said on all that she was leaving because she's such a valuable employee. She's such a valuable team player at the job. But what they didn't understand was, why did she have to sell her home? Because that's what she did, and she had been living with her mother for about 6 weeks leading up to April 29th. She told the people in her life, including her own mother, that the reason she was selling her home was because it was just way too big for one person. It was just her and her dog, and she didn't need all of that extra room, extra space. The real reason was because Vicky needed some quick cash. So she ended up selling her home, which was valued at $235 for only $95,000. She lost on $140,000 because she was so damn desperate to sell her house. And I'm just like, even when you double that amount, it doesn't even come close to making up the value of the house. Like, why? You know what? Like, may this kind of love never locate you. May it never find you. This love that makes you make stupid financial decisions. Nah, absolutely not. So with that being said, this brings us to April 29th. This is D-Day. At 6:30 a.m., Vicky checks herself out of Quality Inn, where she had spent the night before, and then she just goes to work as usual. And then at 9:41, she pulls Casey out of his cell, and she tells other officers that she's supposed to take him for a mental health evaluation at the courthouse. The normal protocol will be that 2 officers have to transfer the inmate. I mentioned this in the beginning, but somehow Vicky managed to get him out just on her own. And all of this, you can see it on CCTV, right? She also told them that after she takes him to the courthouse, she is planning to go seek medical attention because she wasn't feeling all that well. So she takes him out of his cell, and the 2 walk right out of the building into a patrol car, and they're off. I'm drowning myself in this thing. They would later pick up that there is something wrong when hours and hours go by and they haven't even come back. They try to call Vicky, she's not picking up the phone. They then go to the courthouse that she says that she was going to take Casey for the evaluation, and that is when they found out that the evaluation was never even scheduled. There is no evaluation. So by now, investigators had undeniable proof that they were in this together. At 11:50 that same morning, Vicky's patrol car was spotted in the Florence Square Center parking lot. So this patrol car sparked some concerns, and when authorities were notified, that's when they found handcuff keys and Casey's jail-issued shoes. When they called her and then she didn't pick up the phone, they officially reported her missing at 3:30 p.m. So what they soon found out was that when she left in the patrol car with Casey from the jail to the mall, that is where they ended up changing cars. So they ditched the patrol car for a Ford Edge, I believe, a 2007 Ford Edge, and they disappeared. The news of their escape was shared very quickly on news outlets everywhere. So people are also at this point like on the lookout for them. And it also proved to authorities that with the abandoned car, with the clothes and everything, it just, proved that this was like a well thought out plan. And the co-workers would say that Vicky is a very smart woman. If she's the one that orchestrated this whole thing, she would make sure to disguise her looks, She will probably try to change her hair, maybe wear like darker wigs and things like that. So with that information, authorities made posters to show like how she could disguise herself with longer hair, whether it was shorter, with darker hair, shorter, longer. So things are moving very quickly at this point. And even though she had put out the paperwork for her retirement, it was never processed. So on May 1st, that is when she was officially fired from her job. A $10,000 reward was posted by the U.S. Marshal Service for any information at all that would lead to Casey's capture. And the following day, May 2nd, a $5,000 reward was put out for any information at all that would lead to her capture, to Vicky's capture. So just like that, decades on the job over a man. Like, yes, as women, we need to do better. Like, as women in general, we just have to do better. Men, again, like I said, they can't be the be-all and end-all of your life. Like, what? So for a while after that reward money was put out, nothing came up about their sightings or their suspicions up until May 6th, which is 4 days later, when a call came through about a sighting of a car that fit the description of a car believed to have been driven by Vicky and Casey. And this car had been towed nearly a week before. So it turns out that the day that they escaped on April 29th, they had abandoned the Ford Edge on a rural road 2 hours from the jail. Authorities believed that the car had broken down. That is why they abandoned it. But they also saw like splotches of green, which proved to them that they had tried to paint the car green, but with like those can sprays, and they just realized, like, you know what, it's going to be a lot of work, and they aborted that mission entirely. So it took 6 days for this car to be identified as theirs, meaning they had a 6-day head start to go wherever they wanted. As far as authorities were concerned, they could be out of the country, they could be across the country, like nobody knows. But the Lauderdale authorities were hoping that maybe they had walked, maybe stolen another vehicle, and that will be like a great start to try to investigate if someone reported a stolen vehicle in the area. Otherwise, they were just completely clueless as to where to look. They did though ask around in the area if they have seen people fitting the description of Vicky and Casey, because quite honestly, they are hard to miss. Small white lady with the big ass giants, you know, you see the picture though, come on. You will remember that. You will definitely remember seeing those. So around this time, the district attorney also came out with their wheelchair theory to say that Vicky was probably wheeling Casey around to throw authorities off, because it's not every day that you see a 6'9" man and they are plastered everywhere. Everyone is looking out for them, right? And if you were to see them, you were more likely to remember them. They got a break in the case a couple of days later when this man, his name is James Stinson, he is the owner of a car wash in Evansville, Indiana. He said that he first noticed a 2006 Ford F-150 parked in one of the car wash bays. He said that a few days had gone by and the car was still in the same spot. Every day he would come to work and the car is still there. So he's like, okay, what's happening? What's the story with this car? So initially he thought that there was a dead body in the car. I'm like, yeah, me and you both, you know. But when he looked, he found that there is car keys in the car. There was also a gun lock, but there was no gun inside. And also the car had Tennessee plates. This is Indiana, and it had been there for days. So what he then did was move the car out of the bay for other customers, and he called the police because he's thinking it's probably a stolen vehicle, because it doesn't make sense for a car to be parked there for that long. But when the police came over, they told him that there was nothing that they could do because the car had not been reported stolen. But James was like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do with this car? Because it's taking up space and it's messing up with my business. And so that is when the car was towed away. With like this whole towing thing, I'm just like getting flashbacks of the David case. So that is how the car was then towed away. But James is a curious cat. He's like, what is the story with this car? Like, he needs to know. It's like an itch, like he needs to scratch, you know? It's been abandoned. No one has come for it. And it's not been reported stolen. What is going on? So he pulls up surveillance footage, and that is when he sees a very tall man and also notices his tattoos. And he thought, oh, this can't be right. It can't be this. It can't be the same guy, right? At this point, it's like, okay, I really need to get to the bottom of this. So he pulls up pictures of Casey, pulls up pictures of his tattoos, and does like a side-by-side with the surveillance footage. And it turns out it's Casey White. He then notified the US Marshals, and they tell him that actually the car had been reported stolen in Tennessee. I sound like I have a frog. It's stuck in my throat. This is the thing that sometimes I find, like delay cases where authorities are not sharing information with each other. Like the police is not sharing information with the US Marshal. The US Marshal is not sharing the information with the police. So it's like they're both investigating individually, but investigating the same case. And isn't like when you are sharing information, it will just make the whole thing go a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, you know? Okay. So based on the surveillance from James' car wash, they learned that Vicky and Casey ditched the Ford F-150 for a Cadillac. A U.S. Marshal task force that had been tracking them all around were looking around in Evansville at the time, but they were not even sure if they were still in the area. Until, as luck would have it, a police officer called in a tip saying that he saw a car matching the Cadillac that the Whites were believed to have been using parked at a motel. It's like a Motel 41 or something like that. So the task force then goes to the motel and take a watch, like from across the road, so that, you know, they don't spook them or anything. So they're looking through like their binoculars, right? And what they see is a woman with black hair come out of room 511. The officer who saw her saw that she could have gotten away with it until he saw her walk. And he says that she has like a waddle walk, and he remembers it from seeing it from the surveillance footage from the jail. But his suspicions were confirmed when Casey walked out of the same room and joined her in the car. You can't miss Casey. He's tall, you know what I mean. But what I found to be interesting with all of this is that from Tennessee to Evansville, Indiana, it's about like a 3-hour drive. And based on the information that they had, they believed that Vicky and Casey had been in Evansville since May 3rd. My thing is, you have a 6-day head start and you run only 3 hours away? 3 hours away. I would have been out of the country. Somewhere warm, somewhere tropical, where I can't even be extradited back to the US. I'll be gone, baby. But hey, that's me. Vicky and Casey decided to keep it local, you know. Maybe if they don't get passports and try to cross borders, it's less suspicious. But I'm like, if you're gonna run, make sure you run, you know? So they get into the car. The idea was that they have to contain the situation in like the motel area, right? But Vicky and Casey got into the car and they leave. The authorities tell them for a little bit, and then Casey realized that they were being followed. And he starts speeding, and then a speed chase ensues. It's kind of like what happened in the beginning of the story. So not long after the speed chase, the Cadillac was then rammed into a ditch. And then Vicky also called 911 before they got hit. It's believed to have been an accidental dial because she doesn't say anything to the operator, but this is what she had to say.
911. Hello?
John. Airbags are going on. Let's get out and run. Get us back to the hotel.
Hello?
When officers got out of their cars to approach the Cadillac, they heard a single gunshot. Vicky had shot herself. The bullet got through her head and grazed Casey at the back of his head. It wasn't serious, as you can barely see any blood when the police take him out of the car. He genuinely seemed to be very concerned about her, and he kept on telling them like, to check on his wife. He'll say like, please help my wife, she shot herself in the head and I didn't do it. Authorities said that there was no indication that Casey and Vicky were married. Vicky was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead hours later. Her death was ruled as a suicide. And on May 14th, over 200 people attended her burial at Center Hill Cemetery in Lexington, Alabama. The state of Alabama eventually gave the person who chose to remain anonymous the $5,000 reward for information leading up to the capture. After the capture, Casey was returned to Alabama the next day after waiving his right to an extradition hearing. He was transferred back to the state prison in Bessemer, Alabama, rather than the Lauderdale County Detention Centre from which he escaped. His motion for a preliminary hearing on the escape charge was denied on June 13th, with the judge referring to the case to grand jury. On July 11th, Casey White was charged with felony murder for the death of Vicky White. And in May of 2023, Casey White reached a plea deal in which he pleaded guilty to first-degree prison escape and in exchange would not be tried for felony murder and the death of Vicky White. It really doesn't matter though, like how many charges they throw at him, because he was already serving a life sentence, you know what I mean? It's like when someone commits a crime and they just keep on piling all of these charges and it ends up to like 1,000 years or something. And it's just like, you do realize it is a life sentence. It doesn't matter what punishments you add on top of that, because already serving a life sentence, you know what I mean? After he was sent back to prison, he then called a newspaper. Here comes again with the shenanigans. He called a newspaper and he tells them that while he was on the run with Vicky, he killed a woman and a child. Again, we don't know if this is true or not, because there hasn't really been any reported murders for the few days that he was out. Did he say it to get out of prison again? Because we do know that this was not the first time that he has confessed to a murder. And in the Corner Ridgeway murder, his mother said, and I quote, he just wanted to be out of the prison because it was so bad and there was no food. So naturally nothing came out of that confession and he continued to be held in the prison. And the other thing that I found to be particularly weird is that after the capture, the specific room that Casey and Vicky White stayed in, room 511 I believe, was highly sought after. There were like 60 bookings, people wanting to go in the same room. To do what? I don't know. Was it to like imagine what they did, how they did it, and like I don't know, like it's people always do this, right? There's a murder or there's like something that is happening and people always want to go to that exact place. Why? Is it like to scratch an itch? I don't understand. I really don't understand all of this. Anyway, and that is it from me today. Let me know what you think. I think it's just easy to look at the whole case and judge, you know. But I think Vicky was lonely. She was alone. And the first man to show any interest in her, she jumped him. Like, no pun intended. Or maybe there were other men who showed interest and she wasn't interested in them. We will never know. Because I do wonder, like, if Vicky were to redo it all over again, if she had another chance to redo the whole situation, would she make a different choice? Because the thing is, this wasn't like happenstance. It didn't just happen in jail, you know. It was well thought out and she made sure to see it to the very end. And with Casey White, I want to believe like what his mother said about like him wanting to move from the prison to the jail is because the food is bad or like there's not enough food. Because I saw a TikTok of him where he doesn't have his front teeth and you can see that he has lost a lot of weight, you know, like, yeah, it's pretty bad. And you can, you know, kind of feel bad for him. But it's like, yeah, these are the results of our choices. You make one bad choice and then this is what you get. And it also with him, it's like he's making one bad decision after the other, after the other, after the other. So it's like, at this point, you're just actively choosing this. You're actively choosing this life. You know what I mean? Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this case. What I tend to do recently is like have like a learning thing, like a learning arc, like what can we learn from this? And I guess decenter men, I think I've said this before, like decenter men cannot be the be all and end all to your existence. Like to have all of this that you have built for yourself, like Vicky has a whole career, only for it to like flush it down the drain, all because of a man. And the thing also is there was never like a point where you could look and say, oh, okay, maybe in 10 years or like in 5 years they'll be together. His sentence was for 75 years. There is no possibility in the future for them to be together. Like she could have chosen somebody else, but she chose him. I'm interested to hear what you think though, because yeah, this is an interesting one. Okay, and until then, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Bye. Bye.